In this lecture, let's talk about how to download and install Anaconda distribution. So basically Anaconda distribution, it is a package manager. So once you install Anaconda distribution, we will get the latest version of Python installed on our machine, and we will also get the libraries or packages that are required for data science projects, and we will get the IDEs, that is integrated development environments like PyCharm, Spider, etc. And we will also get Jupyter Notebook. Now let's see how to download and install and get the environment ready on our machine. So let me go to any browser. So let's go to Chrome and go to Google and type Anaconda distribution. So here you can see Anaconda is a open source data science and artificial intelligence distribution platform for Python and R programming languages. So this was developed by Anaconda, an American company founded in 2012. The platform is used to develop and manage data science and AI projects. So now click on download Anaconda distribution. Here you can provide your email address and you can register, or if you want you can skip registration as well. And here you can see Anaconda installers. This is for Windows and this is for Mac and this is for Linux operating system. So depending on your operating system you can select the corresponding installer here. I'm using Windows machine, so go ahead and click on this installer. And if you are using Mac operating systems, go ahead and download the installer, and you will have to drag and drop it to your app store, just like how you install any other app. Whereas if you are using Windows operating system, then you can double click on the downloaded installer and you will see this screen and click on next. And here you can agree for the license and click on I agree, and you will see this screen. So here either you can select just me or all users. If there are multiple users using your machine, then you can click on all users, or if you want only for you, you can just click on just me and click on next. And here it will select the installation location, so you can just leave it as is and click on next. And here it is trying to set up, so click on next. And it is trying to install and then click on next. And installation complete, setup was completed successfully. You should see this message and then click on next. And here it shows everything you love about Anaconda now available from the cloud with Anaconda's fully loaded Jupyter Notebook, and click on next. And here this is the final screen, so go ahead and select launch Anaconda Navigator and getting started with Anaconda distribution and click finish. That's the installation. You will have to do it in Windows machine, and if you are using Mac machine, you just have to drag and drop to your app store and install it just like how you install any other app. And once the installation is successful, you will see the Anaconda Navigator open and other Anaconda related installations as well. So once the installation is successful, go to your start menu and type Anaconda Navigator. So here you can see, click on Anaconda Navigator. So this is our Anaconda Navigator, which we got it from the Anaconda distribution installation. So here you can see basically Anaconda, like I said, it is a package manager. So once you install Anaconda distribution, then you will get the latest version of Python installed on our machine, and we do not have to install Python separately. And you will get all the libraries or packages that are required for any data science projects like NumPy, Pandas, or any other packages. And apart from that, we will also get two IDEs. If you notice here, we have PyCharm and we also have Spider. So these two are the IDEs. So basically PyCharm will allow you to write the code, and it has code refactoring as well. And Spider, it is a light code IDE and it is faster than PyCharm, and it is best suitable for simple projects. And any packages that are installed with Anaconda installation, the same packages you can use in your IDEs as well, either PyCharm or Spider. And if you notice here, we will also get Jupyter Notebook. So this is the place where you can write the code quickly and see the results. So that's it. You're all set with the environment that is required to develop any program. So just to review, we learned how to download and install Anaconda distribution, and we were able to set up the environment that is required to move forward. All right, see you in the next lecture. So in this lecture, let's see Jupyter Notebook installation and overview. So Jupyter Notebook comes with Anaconda distribution installation, and we will see the features that are available in Jupyter Notebook, like how to create a file and rename a file, or how to upload or download a file, or how to create checkpoint or revert to a previous checkpoint, and different kernel options that are available inside Jupyter Notebook. So now let's open Jupyter Notebook. So let's go to Anaconda Navigator, and here you can see Jupyter Notebook, and click on this launch button. This will launch Jupyter Notebook. and this is how it looks. So Jupyter Notebook, this is a web-based tool, and you can see it is open in our local machine, local host. And you can open Jupyter Notebook either from Anaconda Navigator, or you can directly open from Start menu as well. And if you are using Mac operating system, you can open Jupyter Notebook from terminal by typing Jupyter space Notebook. So by using Jupyter Notebook, we can document any features very easily because it has Markdown feature. So for example, here you can see you have the new, you can create Python 3 terminal console, new file or folder. You have these different options to create new files, and you also have the upload file. That is, you can upload other files into your Jupyter Notebook as well by clicking upload button. So now let's click on new Python 3. So this will launch a new Python notebook. So if you notice here, it is named as untitled. So click on this, type demo and click on rename. So that will rename the file from untitled to demo. And you notice the file extension, it is IPYNB. And these files will open only inside Jupyter Notebook. And in the future, if you want to open this file, just select this demo from here. That way you will be able to open this file in the future. And if you notice here, this is the cell. In this cell or box, you can write the Python code and it executes cell by cell. If you have multiple cells, it will execute cell by cell. And you can download this file as well. So file, download. So that way you will be able to download this file and share it with somebody else. And make sure you click on save. So that way it will save and create a checkpoint. So let me write a small Python program here. Print welcome to Jupyter Notebook. And either you can click on this run button or you can click on shift enter. So you can see the output down below. Welcome to Jupyter Notebook. So print is a function that is used to print statements. And if you want to know where exactly this file is getting saved, you can type pwd and shift enter. So this is where my file is getting saved. PWD means present working directory. And if you want to see the different options that are available here, click on file and you can create new files here, and you can also save it. You can rename, or you could reload notebook from disk, or you can revert to old checkpoint. Let's say if you want to revert to some other version, you can do that as well, or you can download, or you can save and export into different formats. You have different formats available, PDF, HTML, etc. And you can log out or shut down as well. And edit, you have different edit options here and different view options here. And run, we already saw how to run a Python file. And kernel, here in case if you want to interrupt the kernel, let's say if your program runs forever, then you can just click on this interrupt kernel, or you can restart the kernel, or you can shut down or change kernel, and you have different settings available as well. So just to review what we learned in this lecture, we saw how to launch Jupyter Notebook from Anaconda Navigator, or you can launch from your start menu as well. And we were able to write a small Python program and saw different options available inside Jupyter Notebook. Alright, see you in the next lecture. So in this lecture, let's talk about Jupyter Notebook Markdown feature. So basically Markdown feature is available inside Jupyter Notebook. So that is used for documentation purpose. So by using this Markdown feature, we can create different headings, or you can make the text in bold or italic, or bold and italic, or you can create paragraphs, or you can create line breaks, block quotes with multiple paragraphs, or nested block quotes, or you can create lists, ordered or unordered lists, code or horizontal rules, links, images, URLs, and email address. We have different features available inside the Jupyter Notebook. So let's go to Jupyter Notebook. So this is our Jupyter Notebook. We already created a file and named it demo. And we saw how to write a simple Python program, and we executed it by clicking on run, and we saw where it is getting saved by using pwd command, that is present working directory. So now let's see how to create headings. So hyphen heading level 1, and if you notice here under this drop down you can see code, markdown, and raw. So since we are using the markdown feature, click on markdown and click on run. So now you can see you are able to create heading level 1. by using single hyphen. Similarly, if you use double hyphen and heading level 2 and click on Markdown and run, so now you can see this is second level heading. Here you can insert a cell. So here we are trying to create different headings, and make sure you select Markdown and select run. So now you can see it created a heading. So similarly for heading level 3, give 3 hash and heading level 3 and then select Markdown and click shift enter. So now you can see this is heading level 1, this is 2, this is 3, and similarly for level 4 you have to give 4 hash heading level 4, select Markdown and shift enter. So now you can see different levels are getting created here. And similarly if you want to do heading level 5, so 5 hash and you can give the text, select Markdown and click on run. So now you can see this is how you are able to create different heading levels. So for heading level 1, 1 hash, heading level 2, 2 hash, and heading level 3, 3 hash, and for heading level 4, 4 hash and give the text, and similarly 5, 6 and so on. So that is how you can create different headings inside the Jupyter Notebook, and this is used for the documentation. Shift enter, or you can click run, run. So this executes cell by cell. Now let's see how to make a text italic. So if you want to make a text italic, you have to surround that block of text with a single asterisk. So for example, I am surrounding this italic with single asterisk and select the Markdown and shift enter. So now you can see you converted this text into italic. So let me add that comment as well here. So I'm creating a heading level 3 because I gave 3 hashes. And how to make a text italic? By surrounding a block of text with a single asterisk like this, we can convert this text into italic. So make sure you select Markdown and shift enter and then shift enter. So now you can see you are able to convert this text into italic. So now let's see how to make some text bold. For example, hello, and let's make this text bold. So you have to surround this with 2 asterisks. So double asterisk and select the Markdown and click on run. So now you can see you are able to convert this to bold. So let me add a comment here. How to make a text bold? You'll have to surround a block of text with double asterisk. So this is the single asterisk for italic and double asterisk for bold. And now let's see how to make both bold and italic. So let me add a comment here. How to make both bold and italic? Add 3 asterisks without spaces and around the text. So select the Markdown and run. So that is the comment. So for example, let's say we have this text is really important. So here we are trying to make this really important both bold and italic. So that is why we surrounded this text with 3 asterisks. So make sure you select Markdown and shift enter. So now you can see you are able to convert this text into both bold and italic by using 3 asterisks. And now let's see how to create paragraphs. So you can use a blank line to separate one or more lines of text. For example, let's say you have, I really like using Markdown. So this is one line, and this one I think I will use it to format all of my documents from now on. So here if you notice, we are using a blank line between these two to separate one or more lines of text. So select the Markdown and shift enter. So now you can see we are able to create a paragraph. So let me add a comment here. Select the Markdown and shift enter. So basically here you created heading level 3. And we also have another option. Instead of using blank line, you can also use p tag, that is the paragraph tag. So surround the text with paragraphs. So this is one paragraph and this is another paragraph. So we surrounded this text with paragraph tags and click on Markdown and run. So now you can see either you can use blank line or you can use p tag to create paragraphs. Now the next one, let's see how to create a line break or a new line. So for example, this is the first line and this is the second line. So if you notice here, to create a line of break or a new line, end a line with 2 or more spaces. So here if you notice, I'm ending the first line with 2 or more spaces. So that is how you can create line break. Select the markdown and shift enter. So now you can see we are able to create line breaks. So let me add the comment here. So to create the line breaks or a new line and a line with 2 or more spaces. Or you can also use the break tag as well. So I'm surrounding this entire thing with a paragraph tag P, and also to separate line break we are giving break tag. So this also works. Select the markdown and run. So that is how you can create line break, either by separating with 1 or 2 more spaces, or you can give break tag as well. And now let's see how to create block code. So to create a block code, we'll have to add greater than, that is angular bracket in front of the paragraph. So select the markdown and shift enter. So now you can see you're able to create a block code. So let me add a comment above. To create a block code, you'll have to give angular bracket in front of the paragraph. So that is how you can create a block code. And now let's say if you want to create block codes with multiple paragraphs. So that is block codes with multiple paragraphs. So now for each paragraph, this one and this is the second one, and here the empty line, you'll have to provide this angular bracket in front of the each paragraph. So select markdown and shift enter or run. So this is how you can create multiple paragraphs. And now let's see how to create nested block codes. Markdown and shift enter. So that is the command. And if you want to create nested block codes, then this is the first paragraph and this is the second line, empty line. And here notice we are giving 2 angular brackets, and select the markdown and click on run. So now you can see nested block codes, a block code inside another block code, that is called nested block code. So now let's see a block code with different elements. Select markdown. So here I am giving a block code and then 4 hyphens, and this is a list and bold and italic. So let me select the markdown and run. So now you will be able to understand. So this is heading level 4 and these two are lists, and this is italic and this is bold. So by using different elements we are able to create block codes. And now let's see how to create a list. You can organize items into either ordered list or unordered list. So to create ordered list, select markdown and run. So basically you have to put each list with 1, 2, 3, 4 and make sure you provide space here, otherwise it will not work. So this is the first list and this is the second list, third list and fourth list, and give the numbers here. So that way it will create ordered list. So notice here you are able to create an ordered list. Let's say if you want to create nested ordered list. So this is the first one, second one, third one, and inside third notice I have again 1 and 2. This is the indented item 1 and 2, and again fourth item. So select markdown and click on run. So now you can see you are able to create nested ordered list. And now let's see how to create unordered lists. To create unordered list, you will have to provide hyphen space before each item. Select the markdown and run. So now you can see you're able to create unordered list. So let me select the markdown and run. So now you can see here you're able to create the first item, second item with a block code, and the third item. So to provide the block code, you will have to give angular bracket. So this is another way of creating unordered list. Either you can use hyphen space or asterisk space. Now let's see how to highlight the code in a line. So here the print is a function. This is the Python code. If you want to highlight this, you will have to surround that inside code tags. So let me select markdown and run. So now you can see this function is highlighted. So that is how you can represent a code. And let's say if you want to show horizontal rules, select the markdown and run. So in case if you have to show the horizontal rules, you can use star or hyphen, both will work. So we are getting this invalid syntax because I did not select the markdown. I'm using code. So make sure you select the markdown and then shift enter or click on run. So here you can see this is how you can create horizontal rules. Either you can use asterisk or hyphen, both will work. And now let's see how to create different links. Let's say if you want to create any link, you have to surround the text inside brackets, and inside the parenthesis you have to provide the URL. So this is how you can create a URL or a link. So you can see my favorite website is Udemy, and once you click on this, it will take us to this page. Now let's see how to add images. Select the Markdown and run. So in order to add an image, first thing is we have to import a module called OS. So OS is operating system module. So run it by clicking on shift enter or click on this one. And then now once you import this module, you can make use of the functions that are available inside this module. So inside this module we have change dir. So that is the function to navigate to this directory called downloads, and inside this we have image function. So from Python display we are trying to import the image, and to get the image use the image function and provide the URL here, width and height of the image. So you can specify the path where you downloaded the image and then select the code and run. Do not select Markdown because this is not Markdown, this is the Python code. So make sure you select the code and click on run. So now you can see the image here. Let me increase the width so you can see clearly. So now you can see this is the Python image, or let me give 100 and height 100 and run again. So now you can see we are able to add an image. So now let's see how to show URLs and email addresses. So this is the Markdown. So basically Markdown is for the documentation, and code, this is for the actual Python code. So this is the Python code, right? So that's why you select code and run. And to show the URLs, you will have to surround inside the angular bracket, and this is the Markdown. Shift enter. So now you can see this is how you can create an URL. And if you want to show email address, you will have to again surround with angular brackets. So make sure you select Markdown and shift enter. So now you can see this is how you can display an email address. So let's quickly review what we learned in this lecture. So first we saw how to create different heading levels. For heading level 1, you'll have to provide 1 hash. For heading level 2, 2 hash, and 3 hashes, etc. And in order to make a text italic, you'll have to surround the text with single asterisk. And if you want to make a text bold, you'll have to surround with double asterisk. And if you want to make both italic and bold, then you'll have to surround with 3 asterisks. And if you want to create a paragraph, then you will have to use a blank line to separate 2 lines of text, or you can use paragraph tag also. And now the next one we saw how to create line breaks. To create line breaks, you'll have to provide 2 or more spaces, or you can also use break tag as well. And next we saw how to create block code. To create a block code, we'll have to add angular bracket in front of the paragraph. And if you want to create block codes with multiple paragraphs, then you'll have to add angular bracket in front of the paragraphs. And this is how you can create nested block codes with 2 angular brackets. And here we saw block codes with different elements like italic, bold, and list as well. So if you want to create a list, either you can create ordered list as 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Make sure you provide the space as well. Or here you see a nested ordered list, and here this is how you can create unordered list. And this is another way, either you can use hyphen space or asterisk space. And if you want to represent a code, then you will have to surround with code tags. And this is how you can create horizontal rules. Let me run this. So this is how you can create horizontal rules by 3 asterisks or 3 hyphens. And to create the link, you will have to surround the text within the bracket and the actual URL inside the parenthesis. And to add images, first you will have to import the operating system module and use this code. This is where we are changing the directory and then providing the URL path. So that is how you can add an image. And if you want to display the URLs, surround that inside the angular brackets. And if you want to display the email address, surround that inside a angular bracket. So that's how you can use this Markdown features and do your documentation. All right, see you in the next lecture. So in this lecture, let's talk about Python basics. We have already seen how to install Jupyter Notebook in our previous lectures. So once you install Jupyter Notebook, open this and then click on New Python 3. This is how you can create a new Python file, and you can click on here and name it as Python crash course. This is the name I am giving, and notice the file extension. If you are using Jupyter Notebook, it will save as IPYNB and click on rename. Okay. So now let's see the concepts of Python, right? So the first thing is, let's talk about Python introduction. Notice I'm selecting Markdown, and here I'm creating a new heading, that is heading 1. So here you can see we are able to create the heading, right? I've already talked about this Markdown features in the previous lectures, right? So let's see Python introduction. Here again I'm creating another Markdown. So here you can see Python is popular programming language because Python is open source. That is, it is free to use. And Python is object-oriented programming language, right? And Python is easy to learn. This is one of the easiest programming language. And we have library support available. There are a lot of functions available inside the libraries, and we do not need to write from scratch, right? That is, you can make use of the existing library functions, and you do not have to build anything from scratch, right? For example, we have sklearn library for machine learning, and if you are building any machine learning model, we can use sklearn library functions. And we have pandas library for data analysis or data manipulation or data cleaning, right? And for data visualization, we have plotly, matplotlly, seaborn libraries for data visualization. And for deep learning tasks, we have keras and tensorflow. These are the popular libraries for deep learning tasks. And we can call the functions available inside these libraries and implement the logic instead of doing it from scratch, right? So that is another reason why Python is popular, because of the library support for each task. And how can we make use of these libraries? In order to use these libraries, first thing is we need to install the package. So now let's learn how to install the package. So notice I'm changing the drop down from code to Markdown and run. So that way you will see the Markdown here, right? And the next thing is we are trying to learn how to install a package, because in order to use these external libraries, first thing is we need to install the package. And to install a package in Python, we use pip install, and you have to provide the package name. So this is the command you have to use. For example, to see the packages, we have to go to PyPy. So this is the website for PyPy. So here we are trying to search for NumPy, right? So you can see the command here. So what is PyPy? PyPy is Python package index. So here you can type any package name and it will give you the command. So you can copy this command, pip install numpy, right? So that is how you will be able to install any package. So once you get this command, you can execute this command either in Jupyter Notebook and run, or you can execute from the Anaconda prompt as well. So let's continue with Jupyter Notebook and let's give this command and click on run. So notice this star, so that means it is trying to execute. So you can see requirement already satisfied, numpy, and this is the package. You may need to restart the kernel to use the updated packages. I have already installed this numpy package, so that is why it is showing requirement already satisfied. This is the step number 1. So you have installed this package. And next thing is, in order to use the functions inside this numpy package, we need to import the package, right? So now we install the package. Now let's learn how to import a package. Okay, so I'm selecting Markdown. So we learned package installation. Now the next thing is package import. Once the package installation is complete, in order to use the package, we need to import it first, right? Similarly, you can install any package and make use of the libraries that are provided. So here we are seeing NumPy library. Instead of NumPy, you can try to install any other package in the same way. For example, if you want to install pandas library or plotly or matplotlly or keras or tensorflow, right? Any package you will install by using pip install, and you will provide the package name here. To get the package name, you will go to PyPy. So this is the website where you have to go in order to get the package name, right? This is the command. We got it from the PyPy and we ran this command. So that way the package has been installed. Now the next thing is we are learning how to import a package. So in order to import a package, we have to use import keyword. Okay, so import, and you have to provide the package name that we just installed, right? And then run it. So that way this package numpy has been imported into the memory and it is ready to use. And if you want to see all the methods inside this numpy package, we can use a function called dir. So use the function dir. So let me add the comments here, so that way it will be easy for you to refer later. So what we did here with this import, we loaded this numpy package into memory and this package is ready to use, right? And here by using this dir function, we are trying to see all the methods that are available inside this numpy package by using dir function, right? So let's run this. So now you can see all the methods that are available inside this numpy package. You can see by using this dir function, right? So these are all the methods that are available inside numpy package, right? And for example, let's say if you want to see any specific method description, right, from this list, for example, let's pick max method. And if you want to see any help for this method, you can use question mark, right? So that is numpy dot max. So you want to learn more about this function, give question mark and run it. So now you can see this is the max function and these are all the parameters inside this function. And what is the signature of this method? So it accepts these parameters, right? And the data type, and you can see the complete description of this method. Return the maximum of an array or maximum along an axis. And what are the parameters? You can see these are the parameters and it is giving the complete description of each parameter, right? And what is the return type? What this method will return. And you can also see the complete description with examples, right? Okay. So if you want to take any help for that method, you can just give question mark, right? Instead of question mark, we also have help function. So you can use help of numpy dot max. So this also will give you the same thing, right? So what are the parameters? What is the return type? It is explaining with the examples, right? So close this. Let me also close this, right? So either you can use question mark or you can also use help function. Both will give you the complete description of this method. Okay. So what we did here, let me add the comment here. So to take help for a method, either you can use question mark or you can also use help function, right? So that is what we did here. And now let's learn what are variables. Okay, so that is our next topic. So what is a variable? A variable is a container to store the value. So let me add those points here so you can refer them. A variable is a container to store the value. It's an address which holds the reference to the real value. For example, let's take, we are creating a variable test and we are assigning a value of 25, right? So let's run this. Okay, and now let's try to see what is this test variable contains. You can see it is giving 25. So that means a variable, this is a container to store the value. What is the value here? 25, right? So this is how we will declare a variable. And now to see what is the data type of this variable, we can use a function called type and pass this variable and run. And now you can see this variable test is of type integer, right? Because we assign integer value to this variable test. Okay. And now let's change the value from integer to float, right? So test is equal to 25.29 I'm assigning. Okay, so this is a float value, and let's run this code. Okay, now let's try to see what we have inside this variable test. So now you can say it is 25.29. So that means we changed from integer to float, right? And if you want to see if it is actually a float or not, so you can just use this type function and pass this variable, so you can see the data type of this variable, right? So let's run this. So now we can see it is of type float. And now instead of integer and float, let's try to assign a string value. Okay, so test is equal to, here we are assigning a string value. This string either you can use in single quotes or you can also specify in double quotes. Both will work. Okay, so save it and run. So let's see what we have inside this test. So now we can see it is giving Python, right? And now let's see the data type of this variable test. Because we assigned a string value, it is giving the data type as string, right? So based on this, what you understood, the type of the variable is dynamic. That is, based on the value we are assigning, the type of the variable changes, right? So Python is dynamically typed. When we assign string value to this variable, it is giving string data type, right? And when we assign float value, it is giving float data type. And when we assign int value to this same variable, it is giving integer data type, right? So that means depending on the value that we will be assigning to the variable, the type of the variable changes. So Python is dynamically typed. So that is all about variables. So variable is nothing but a container that can hold a value, right? And now let's learn identifiers. So that is the next topic, identifiers. So can we give any name to this variable? Here we have given test, right? So can we give any name to a variable? No, because we have certain rules for naming a variable and we have to follow those rules, right? And what are the rules? It can accept only alphabets, capital A to Z or small a to Z, and numbers and underscore, right? First letter cannot be a number. Reserved words cannot be used, right? So these are the rules that we have to follow when naming a variable. So for example, let's say if we give underscore a underscore 1 and we are assigning an integer value here, right? So let's run this. So now you can see this is a valid variable name because we are using underscore. It doesn't start with a number and this is also not a reserved word, right? So this variable name is following these rules, right? Now instead of this, let's give underscore a hyphen 1 equal to 11, right? Now let's run this code. So now you can see syntax error, cannot assign to expression here. Maybe you meant double equal to instead of equal to. So what is happening here? We are giving hyphen, but we cannot provide a variable name with hyphen. It is not following these rules. So make sure you remember these rules whenever you are trying to name a variable, right? The variable can accept only alphabets, either small a to z or capital A to z, numbers and underscore, right? Hyphen is not allowed. And first letter cannot be a number, right? For example, let's say 3a is equal to some 5, right? So let's run this code. So now you can see invalid decimal literal, right? So the variable name cannot start with a number, okay? So that is what you have to remember whenever you are trying to name a variable, right? So that's all about identifiers. And now the next topic is type conversion, okay? So type conversion means converting one type of variable to another type. For example, let's take a variable b is equal to 1, right? So this is of type string. Let's run this and now if you want to see the data type here, you can use the type function and see the variable b is of type string, right? Because we assigned a string value. And now let's convert this string variable into an integer variable, right? So you can use the function int and pass this variable, right? So now you can see the value is 1. So by using this int function, we are able to convert from string to integer, right? Now let's try to convert this int variable to float variable, right? So you can use float of b. Okay, so that means we are trying to convert from int to float, right? So let's run this. So now you can see it is converted to float. So now let's convert this variable b back to string, right? So if you use str function and pass the variable, now let's run it again. So now you can see it is converted to string, right? So that means you can convert a variable from one data type to another data type, right? So first we assigned a string variable and we used the int function and we converted to integer, and we used the float function, we converted to float, and then we used the str, that is string function, and we converted to a string, right? So that is about type conversion. That is, we can convert from one data type to another data type, right? So let me add it here so you can refer this later. So type conversion is converting the data type of a variable from one data type to another data type, right? And now let's see another example. For example, x is equal to Python. So this x is a string variable, right? So let's run this, and now let's try to convert this string to float by using float function. So now you can see could not convert string to float. So you understand that it needs to be compatible in order to do the type conversion. So you cannot blindly use these functions, because here we were able to convert from integer to float by using float. But here we are trying to convert from string to float. This is not possible, right? So in order to do this type conversion, this has to be compatible. Otherwise, we cannot convert. You cannot convert from string to float, right? That is why we are getting this value error. And now let's see how we can read input data from keyboard. So that is our next topic, how to read input from keyboard. In order to do that, we have a function called input, right? So using input function, you can read the input from the keyboard. How to do that? For example, we are using a function called input and we are saying enter a number, right? So this is the instruction we are giving, and we are assigning that to a variable called num, number, right? So now let's run this code. So it is saying enter a number, right? So let's say if I give 10 and hit enter, and now let's try to see what we have inside this variable num, right? So now you can see 10. So by default, anything that we entered will be considered as a string. So if you want to convert this to any other data type, then you can do the type conversion like we learned before, right? For example, let's say if you want to convert this string to an integer, then you can use the int function and we are passing this, right? So let's run the code. So enter a number. So now let's enter again 10. Now let's try to see what we have inside this int number. So now you can see it is of type integer. So by default, it is of type string. And if you want to convert to any other data type, then you have to do the type conversion like how we did here, right? We are using the int function, so that way whatever the input that we are reading from the keyboard has been converted to integer. So that is how you can read the input from keyboard. Okay, so let's quickly review what we learned so far. So Python introduction. So we learned Python is open source and it is an object-oriented programming language, and it is easy to learn, and we have library support available. These are the different libraries that are available. And if you want to make use of these libraries, first thing is we have to install the package. And we learned how to install a package. We have to use pip install and you have to provide the package name, right? So that is how we install the NumPy package. And similarly, instead of NumPy, you can install any other package in the same way, right? And once you install the package, in order to make use of this package, we have to import. By using this import keyword, we loaded the package into the memory, and now this package is ready to use. You can make use of any functions that are available inside this package. By using dir function, we are trying to see what are the methods that are available inside this NumPy package, right? And now, if you want to learn about any specific method, you can make use of question mark, or you can also use help function. So this will give you the method signature and examples as well, right? And next we learn variables. So what is a variable? It is a container to store any value, and it's an address which holds the reference to the real value. So here we assigned an integer variable. So we saw the data type as int. And next we assign float value. So we saw the data type as float, right? So similarly we assigned a string value. So we saw the data type as string, right? So based on this, you understand that the type of the variable is dynamic. Based on the value we assign, the type of the variable changes. So Python is dynamically typed. And next what we learn, identifiers. So what is identifier? We cannot give any name to a variable. There are certain rules that you have to follow whenever you're trying to name a variable. And these are the rules. It can accept only capital A to Z or small a to z and numbers and underscore. First letter cannot be a number, and we cannot use reserved words as a variable name, right? And we saw with examples. And next thing is type conversion. That is how to convert a variable from one data type to another data type, right? So first we created a string variable and we used the int function, so we converted to int. And we used the float function, we converted from integer to float. And we used the str function and we converted from float to string, right? And here we try to convert from string to float. This is not possible, right? So whenever you are trying to do the type conversion, we have to make sure they are compatible, right? And then we also learned about how to read input from keyboard by using the function input, right? So by default, anything that we enter will be considered as a string, right? And if you want to convert to any other type, then we have to use type conversion. Here we are using int function, so whatever we entered, this string value is converted to int because we are explicitly using type conversion. All right, thank you. So what we learned in the previous lecture, we learned what is Python and how to install a package and how to import a package, and what are the variables, and what are the identifiers, and what is type conversion, and how to read input from keyboard, right? So we learned all these concepts. Now let's see the next one, that is control statements and loops, right? So that is the next topic. So what are control statements? If, elif, else, these are called conditional statements or control statements. Okay, so let me add a comment here. If, elif, else. Okay, these are called the conditional statements. So let's see one by one. If 3 greater than 2, print I am in if block, right? So this is how we have to define a if conditional statement by using the keyword if, and here you can provide the expression, and we are trying to print this, right? Whenever this condition is true, then it will go inside and print this. If 3 is less than 2, then this will not print, right? Here 3 greater than 2, this condition is true. Whenever this condition is true, print this, right? So we are trying to print this depending on a condition, right? So that is why these are conditional statements. So let's run this code. So now you can see it printed I am in if block, right? Because this condition is true, right? And now let's see another example. If 3 greater than 2, here we are printing I am in if block, right? So now let's run this code. So now you can see indentation error. Expected an indented block after if statement on line number 1. So what does this mean? After this, you can see the indentation here. this is the indentation, right? So that means after this it has to start the next line here. But here we are starting the next line here, right? So what you understood here, Python follows indentation, right? So after this hit enter. So this is where the next line should start. But we started here. Instead of here, we started here. So that's why we got the indentation error. We should start here, but we started here, right? So that is the reason we saw the indentation error. This example is to explain that Python follows indentation, right? So make sure you follow indentation whenever you write the code. And now let's see elif, okay? What we are doing here, if 3 greater than 2, print I am in if block. Elif 3 greater than 1, print I am in elif block, right? So let's execute this code. So you can see it is printing I am in if block, right? Because this condition is true. 3 greater than 2, the condition is true, right? So it will come to this block and this will not execute the remaining code, right? Because this condition is true. So the execution will stop here and it will not be executed because this condition is already true. So this will be printed and the execution will stop and it will not come inside this elif block, right? So let's see another example. If 3 less than 2, print I am in if block. Elif 3 greater than 2, print I am in elif block. Elif 4 greater than 2, print I am in the second elif block. So all these are keywords, right? If, elif, elif, right? If this is true, do this. Otherwise, if this is true, do this. Otherwise, if this is true, then do this, right? 3 less than 2, this is false. So control will not come here. Elif 3 greater than 1, this condition is true. So that's why it will print I am in elif block. Since this condition is true, the control will not come inside this block, right? Because this condition is already true, so this will print this. So let's run this code. So now you can see I am in elif block, right? And this will not be executed because this condition is already true. So the execution will stop there and it will come out of this, right? And it will not execute this. Now let's see one other example. So what we are doing here, for the same code, we are adding else block as well. Okay, if 3 less than 2, this condition is false, so it will not execute this. 3 less than 1, this condition is also false, and 4 less than 2, this condition is also false, right? So all these 3 conditions are false here. So if none of these conditions are true, then this will be executed. So let's try to run this. So now you can see this will be executed when none of the above conditions are true. So else will be executed when the prior conditions are all false, right? So we learn how to use these conditional statements if, elif and else, right, with examples. Now let's see loops. The first one is while loop. So this is the markdown. So while loop will iterate until the condition is false, right? For example, counter is equal to, we are giving the value as 4. If 4 greater than 2, print counter and we are decrementing the counter. So initially the counter value is 4. So 4 minus 1, 3. So 3 greater than 2, again the condition is true. So it will print. And then again counter is equal to counter minus 1. So 3 minus 1, 2. So 2 greater than 2, right? So this condition is false. So the while loop will iterate until the condition is false. So whenever 2 greater than 2, that condition is false, it will stop executing, right? So we have to use the keyword while in order to define this while loop, right? So this is how we define a while loop. While, and this is the condition. This will execute until the condition is false. So let's run this code. So now you can see 4, 3. It printed the counter value as 4 and 3 because 4 greater than 2. So it printed 4. And then again the counter value became 3, 3 greater than 2. So it printed 3. And then again the counter value will become 3 minus 1, 2. So 2 greater than 2, the condition is false. So the while loop will stop executing, right? So that means until the condition is false, it will keep executing, right? So that is the intent of using while loop. So let me add the comment here. Okay. So the while loop will iterate until the condition is false, right? And the next one is for loop. Okay. So for loop is used when we want to iterate or repeat multiple times. For example, we define the for loop by using the keyword for x in range of 1 to 6. Print x, right? So that means this loop will iterate multiple times, range of 1 to 6. So let's try to run this code. So now you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So range of 1 to 6 means between 1 to 6, give me all the numbers, right? So that is the range function. For x in 1 to 5, print all the values. So range of 1 to 6 means give me all the numbers between 1 to 5. This 6 means this will be excluded. This is the end index, this will be excluded. So it will print until 5, 1 to 5. So we are using this for loop and we are trying to iterate this multiple times for each number, trying to print the corresponding number, right? So let me add that comment as well. Okay. So the for loop is used when we want to iterate this, right? This is the condition between 1 to 5. The end index 6 will be excluded. So it will print all the numbers between 1 to 5. When we want to repeat multiple times, we will use this. For example, when we go to machine learning models, during training, we will keep iterating to get the accurate value, right? So there are many cases where we will use this for loop. And here this range is a function and it takes 3 parameters. That is the start index, which is inclusive, and end index, this is exclusive, and there is a step size also you can define. Okay, so let's see one other example. This is the start index, end index, and this is the step size. That means between 1 to 5, this 6 will be excluded, right? So between 1 to 5, this is the step size is 2, right? So that means step 1 number forward, right? For example, let's run this code so you will understand. So 1, because we gave the step index as 2, so that's why it will not print 2, it will go to 3. And then again skip 4 and print 5, right? So that is the use of this step index, right? And now let's see one other program. You want to start at 11 and decrement until 2, right? So write a program to start x at 11 and decrement until 2, right? So how can we write this? For, this is the keyword, the value of x in range of, notice here, we want to start the value of x as 11, right? So that's why we gave the start index as 11 and decrement till 2, right? So that's why we gave the step index as -1. So this way the values will be printed in the reverse order, right? Because we are giving the negative index and this is the end index, right? So that means this will be exclusive. So now let's run code. So now you can see it started from 11 and then decrement by 1, right? So 10, 9, 8, 7 and so on, right? So this is the exclusive value. So that's why you are saying only until 2, right? That is here ending index is exclusive and starting index is inclusive, and this is the step value. This step value can be either positive or negative. Positive means it will go in the forward direction. Negative means it will go in the backward direction. Okay. Let me add the comment here for range function. Range is a function and takes 3 parameters. Start index, right? That is inclusive. End index, which is exclusive. So that means it will give until the previous value, right? And step size. Default value is 1. If you do not give any value, the default value is 1, right? So that's why we saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And if you give 2, it will go 2 steps forward, right? So plus means forward direction, minus means backward direction. Okay. And now the next topic is functions. So let's learn about functions. So what is a function? Let me put the comments here so you can refer them later. A function is a block of code which will do a particular job. So we don't repeat the code again and again, right? So that is the intent of using function. If you want to use the same block of code again and again, put that code inside a function so you can reuse the same code. So that way you don't duplicate the code, right? We use functions for code reusability. If you want to reuse the same code again and again, put that code inside a function and we will write the code once and call and reuse whenever we need it, right? So that is the intent of using function. Now let's see how to define a function and how to call a function, right? So we use the keyword called def. In order to define a function, we use def keyword, and here you have to give the function name. You can give any name here, but make sure you provide meaningful function name. And these are the function parameters. We are giving number 1 and number 2, and we are returning number 1 plus number 2. What will this function do? It will return the sum of these two numbers, number 1 and number 2. So this is how we defined a function. This is the def keyword, this is the function name, and these two are the function parameters, and this is the return keyword. By using this return, we are returning this value, number 1 plus number 2, right? And now this is the function definition. Now let's call this function, right? So in order to call, you have to use the function name, and this function accepts number 1 and number 2, right? So let's pass two values, 6 comma 6, right? So this is how you have to call. So let's execute this code. So now you can see 12, right? So that means we passed 6 comma 6. So this number 1 will be replaced with 6, number 2 will be replaced with 6. Return 6 plus 6, which is 12, right? So this is how you will define a function, and this is how you will call a function. Okay? And instead of this number 1 plus number 2, here you will place all the repetitive code, right? Let's say if you have a block of code that you will be using many times inside your project, so put that code here inside this function and call it multiple times. Okay, that way you can reuse the same code by using this function, right? And now we can also use docstring that will help others to understand the functionality of your function, right? For example, here we are using docstring. This is called docstring. We are saying this function is used to calculate the sum of two numbers, right? So whatever logic you are implementing here, you can provide a brief description here. So that way, when others are trying to read this function, they will understand what this function will do, right? So let me run this. Now let's see the help and see what this function will do, right? So you can see the docstring is this function is used to calculate the sum of two numbers, right? So you can see by using question mark or by using the help function, we can understand the method signature, right? So that the signature is this, what is the docstring, what is the brief description of this function, and this is where I'm saving, and what is it? It is a function, right? So you can see the docstring value here, right? Thank you. So in this lecture, we will talk about Python data structures. So that is our next topic. Notice I'm selecting the Markdown, and here we created the heading 1, that is data structures. So we will talk about list, tuple, set, dictionary, and string. We will cover all these different data structures, right? So for each of these data structure, we will talk about how to create a data structure. For example, let's start with list, right? So for list, how to create a list, what are the properties of the list, and how to select the elements of the list, and how to update, that is add, delete, and replace elements of a list, and how to perform different operations on list, right? So for each of these 5 data structures, we will cover these different topics. Okay, so the first thing is, let's start with list. So that is our first data structure. So how can we create a list? We have to specify the elements of a list inside a square brackets, right? Inside the list, you can have any data. It accepts mixed elements like integer, string, float, etc. For example, we are creating a list, list 1, and we have to specify the elements inside the square brackets. with comma separated, right? So if you notice here, inside the list, you can have any data. It accepts mixed elements. For example, 1, 2, these two elements are integers. Python, this is a string, and 1.2 is a float, right? So it can accept any data type elements. And if you want to see what we have inside this list, so let's try to run this code. This is what we have inside the list: 1, 2, Python 1.2, right? Now let's try to understand the properties of list. So what are the properties of list? List accepts mixed elements, that is integer, string or float, right? And elements are ordered. The way we enter the elements, the same way we will retrieve the elements. So the way we enter the elements, the same way we will retrieve the elements. And list allows duplicate values, right? So you can add duplicate elements inside a list, and list is mutable. That means once you create a list, you can add, update, delete elements of a list. That is, you can change the list once you create a list, right? Now let's try to add duplicate elements, right? So inside the list, we can change it. That is, we are adding the element 1 again. So we are trying to add duplicate element and we are trying to change. That is, list is mutable, right? So let's try to run this code, and now let's print this list 1 again. So now you can see list allows duplicate values 1 and 1, right? So these are the properties of list. It can allow any elements, that is integer, string or float, etc. and the elements are ordered. It can allow duplicate values, and list is mutable. That is, once you create a list, you can either add or update or delete elements of a list. Okay. Now the next thing is, let's see how to do the selection of elements of a list. Okay. So we can select the elements of a list by either positive indexing or negative indexing. Okay. So let's see positive index, that is left to right. That is called positive index, right? So for example, 0th index value is 1, first index value is 2, and second index value is 1, and programming is third index value, and so on, right? For example, let's say if you want to get the value of programming, that is 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So we have to specify list 1 of 3. That should give us programming, right? So this is positive indexing. And what is negative indexing? That means right to left. For example, if you want to get the same element, that is programming, with negative index, then we have to give -1, -2 and -3, right? So if you give list 1 of -3, that should give us programming, right? So this is negative index, that is from right to left. Positive index means left to right, right? So what we have inside the list 1 now, this is what we have, right? And if you want to extract multiple elements, so far we extracted only one element. And if you want to extract multiple elements, for example, let's say if you want to extract one programming, right? That is 0, 1, 2 and 3. So the value at the index 2 and 3, right? So for that we have to give, this is the starting index and this is the ending index. Ending index is always exclusive, that is end -1. So we have to get the value of programming, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3. So we have to give 4 here, because the ending index is always exclusive and it will calculate end -1, that is 4 -1, 3. So this should give us the value at the second index and the value at the third index. So that way we will be able to extract multiple elements from this list, right? So let's run this code. So now you can see we are able to extract 1 and programming, right? So notice the ending index is exclusive and it will calculate as end -1. Okay. So now let's extract the same by using negative indexing. So if you want to extract again 1 and programming, we have to use -4. That is -1, -2, -3, and -4. That should give us 1 and -2. So let's run this code. So now you can see we are able to print 1 comma programming, right? This one by using positive indexing and this one by using negative indexing, right? And now let's try to extract 2 to Python by using negative indexing. So how can we extract that? -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, right? So we have to give -5 and here -2 plus 1, that is -1, right? So list 1 of -5 -1, right? So let's run the code. So now you can see we are able to extract from 2 to Python all these elements. So this is how you can extract multiple elements from a list, right? Now let's try to extract the elements from starting to programming, right? That is 0, 1, 2, 3 and plus 1, that is 3 plus 1 is 4. Notice here we are not specifying the starting index when we are extracting from beginning, right? So we don't have to specify the starting index. If you want, you can specify, otherwise it is optional, right? So if you notice here, we did not specify any starting index and it is giving from starting, that is 1 to 1 programming. So that is what we are able to extract, right? That is end -1. So until third element it will print, right? Now let's try to extract from this ending value until programming, right? So how can we give -1, -2, -3, right? So if we are trying to extract the elements from the end index is optional. So let's run this code. So now you can see we are able to print from programming to 1.2, right? So that is how you can extract the elements. Now let's see how to update the elements of a list. So we will cover add, delete and replace. So how to add elements of a list? We can use append, extend, insert. Append is used to add single element at the end of a list. Extend is used to add multiple elements at the end of a list. And insert is used to insert single element at any index position, right? So let's see one by one. For example, let's consider this is our list. Let's try to print this list. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the first method is append. So by using append, let's add the value of Python at the end of this list. Okay. So let's run this code. And now let's see what we have inside list 1. So now you can see we are able to add the element Python at the end of the list by using append function, right? The next one is extend. So extend is used to add multiple elements at the end of a list. So let's use extend function and we are trying to add multiple elements, that is 7, 8 and 9 at the end of the list, right? So let's run this code. And now let's see what we have inside list 1. So now you can see we are able to add the element 7, 8 and 9 by using extend function, right? And what is the next one? Insert. Let's say if you don't know how to use the function insert, so we can use help, right? So that is list 1 dot insert question mark. So this will give you the method signature, right? That is how to use this method. Now let's try to use the insert function and pass the value, that is 1 comma programming. So insert function is used to insert single element at any index position. So we are using the index position as 1 and we are trying to insert programming, right? That is at the index position 1, we want to insert the value programming, right? So this is what we have. Now we want to insert here at the first index, we want to insert programming, that is 1 programming, 2 and so on, right? So let's run this code and now let's see what we have inside this list. So now you can see we are able to insert programming at the index 1, right? So this is all about add. The next one is delete. Now let's see how to delete the elements
from a list. So that is the next one. So how can we delete elements of a list? By using pop, delete and remove, right? So we will cover one by one. So how can we use pop? So let's run this code. So now you can see we deleted the element 9, right? And now if you see the list again, so now you can see we deleted the element at the last index, right? That is, the last element has been deleted by using this pop function. Okay, now let's try to delete this 4. So if we have to delete the value of 4, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So the index is 4. So we have to pass the index in order to delete the element by using this pop function, right? So element with index. So let's run this code. So now you can see we removed this value of 4 by using this pop function. Okay. So now let's try to see what we have inside list. So now you can see element 4 has been deleted, right? And if you don't know the index of an element, then we can use remove and pass the element. For example, let's say if you want to delete this programming and if you don't know what is the index value of this programming, in that case you can use remove function and pass the element value. So let's run this code and now let's see what we have inside list 1. So now you can see we are able to delete the value programming, right, by using remove function. When you don't know the index value of the element, you can directly pass the value and delete the element, right? And we also have delete to delete multiple elements. For example, let's say if you want to delete list 1 of 0 to 2, right? So that is 0 and 1. These two elements if you want to delete, specify starting index as 0 and the ending index is end minus 1, right? That is 2 minus 1. So it will be deleted till the first index. So 1 and 2 will be deleted. So let's run this code. And now let's see what we have inside list 1. So now you can see the first two elements have been deleted, right? So you can see the rest of the elements. So we have covered delete. Let's see how to replace the elements of a list, right? So that is our next one, how to replace the elements of a list. So let's say if you want to replace the element at the first index, that is at the 0th index, so you can just simply give list 1 of 0 is equal to 33. So we are trying to replace the value at the index 0 with 33. Instead of 3, we are trying to replace with 33, right? So let's run this code. And now let's see what we have inside list. So you can see 3 has been replaced with 33, right? That is, we replaced the first element 3 with 33. So you can add, delete, update, right? That means list is mutable. So after you created the list, you can change it. Okay. So if you want to see different methods that are available inside a list, we can use dir function and pass the list. So let's run the code. So now you can see these are the different operations that you can perform inside a list. That is, either you can append, clear, copy, count, extend, index, insert, pop, remove, reverse, sort. So these are the different methods that are available inside a list, right? So we have covered some of them and you can experiment remaining. That is how to sort the elements of a list, how to reverse the elements of a list, right? How to count the elements of a list. So you can experiment these remaining methods, right? So let's quickly review what we learned here. So we started with data structures. We have different data structures, that is list, tuple, set, dictionary and string. And for each data structure, we are trying to cover how to create the list and what are the properties of the list, how to do the selection of the elements of a list, and how to update the list, and how to perform different operations, right? If you have to create the list, we have to use square brackets and specify the elements inside this square brackets. So that is how you can create a list. And what are the properties of a list? List accepts mixed elements. That is, either you can create a list with integer, string, or float, etc. And elements are ordered. That is, the way we enter the elements, the same way we will retrieve the elements. And list accepts duplicate elements, and list is mutable. That is, after you create the list, you can either add, update, delete elements of a list, right? And here we saw how to select the elements of a list either by using positive indexing or negative indexing. So this is the positive index and this is the negative index. And if you want to select multiple elements, you can specify starting index and ending index, right? Either positive indexing or by using negative indexing, we can select multiple elements of a list. And then the next thing is we saw how to update the elements of a list. That is how to add by using append, extend, and insert functions. And then we saw how to delete the elements of a list by using pop, del, and remove, right? And then we saw how to replace the elements of a list, right? And if you want to see different methods that are available inside a list, you can always use dir function. Okay, that's all about list. All right, thank you. So in the previous lecture, we talked about list data structure. Now the next one is tuple. So we will be learning tuple in this lecture. Now let's see the tuple properties. Tuple is immutable. That means once we create a tuple, we cannot add or delete or update a tuple. And tuple can take mixed elements. That is, you can assign integer, string, or float, or any other data type value to tuple, right? Generally, this tuple is used to store any confidential information. For example, SSN, right? So SSN is confidential for each individual, right? So to store any confidential information, generally we use tuple. Okay. Now let's see how we can create a tuple. This is how you can create a tuple, right? So here we are creating a tuple variable t1 and we are assigning different data type values. 1, 2, 3. These three are integers and we are assigning string, or you can assign any other data type value by comma separated, right? So this is how we can create a tuple. So let me save it and run the code. Now let's see what we have inside the tuple variable t1. So now you can see the elements that are inside this tuple t1, right? We can also create a tuple by providing the elements inside this parenthesis. So let me run this code. And now let's see what we have inside T2. So now you can see a tuple can be created without parenthesis or with parenthesis, right? So either way you can create the tuple. These parentheses, that is these brackets, are optional when creating a tuple. Okay. So this is how we can create a tuple. Now let's see how we can extract or select an element from a tuple. Tuple extraction or selection of elements is same as list, right? So let's say if you want to extract the element at the index 0, then we have to specify t1 of provide the index value. So that way we will get the value at the index 0, which is nothing but 1. So now let's run this code. So now we can see we are able to extract the element at the index 0 from the tuple t1. Okay. Now let's see if you want to extract multiple elements. For example, t1 of the starting index is 1 and the ending index is 4. Always remember the ending index is exclusive. So 4 minus 1, so it will consider until index 3, right? So what is the value at the index 1? It is 2, 3, and then index 3 is Python, right? So that should give us 2, 3 and Python. So let's run this code. So now you can see we are able to get the elements from the index 1 to 3. 2 is the element at the index 1 and 3 is the element at the index 2 and Python is the element at the index 3, right? Now let's try to replace the value of 1 with 11. So we are trying to get the value at the element index 0, which is nothing but 1, and we are trying to replace with 11. Instead of 1, we are trying to replace with 11, right? So let me run this code. So now you can see we are getting type error. Tuple object does not support item assignment. So why are we getting this type error? Because tuple is immutable. That is, once we create a tuple, we cannot change it. That is, we cannot add or delete or update a tuple, right? So we cannot change tuple once it is created, right? So this is nothing but tuple. That's all about tuple. So let's quickly review what we learned. What are the tuple properties? Tuple is immutable. That is, once we create a tuple, we cannot change it. And the tuple can accept mixed elements, integer, string, float, or any other data type. And here we are creating a tuple by assigning these elements comma separated. Either you can provide without parenthesis or with parenthesis. Either way you can create a tuple. And here we saw how to extract the elements of a tuple. This is similar to how we extracted the elements inside a list, right? And here we tried to extract multiple elements from tuple. And here we tried to change the value of the tuple, which is not possible because tuple is immutable. You cannot change the elements of a tuple once it is created, right? So that's about tuple. All right. Thank you. So we started learning about data structures. We learned about list and tuple. The next one is, let's see, string data structure. Okay. So we covered about tuple properties and how to extract the elements of a tuple. And if you want to deep dive more, you can go to the official documentation. This is from docs.python.org. And if you go to data structures, you can see tuple and sequences, right? So you can go here and then try to learn more depending on your requirement. Okay. Now let's see the next data structure, which is nothing but string. Okay. So how can we create a string? For example, let's say this is a string variable and we are assigning the value. I am an animal and while I can talk, I also roar, right? So you can specify the string either in double quotes or in single quotes. Both will work. Okay. Now, once we create a string, let's see how we can extract the elements of the string. So we have to specify the string variable of, here we have to specify the index value, that is 0 to 4. So it will retrieve the characters from 0 to 3, right? So 0 space is also considered as a character. So 0, 1, 2 and 3. So that should give us I am, right? So now let's select this cell and run the code. So now you can see it is printing I am, right? So this is how you can extract the elements from a string by specifying the index value. Okay. Now let's try to use the negative index, that is -5. So negative index means from right to left. Positive index means from left to right. So the starting index is -5, right? So this is -1, -2, -3, -4 and -5. So it should start from -5, and here we did not specify end index. So that will give us all the way to the end of the string, right? So let's run this code. So now you can see we are able to get the value from this string from the index value of -5 to all the way to the end, right? Now let's see one other example. Raw underscore string of, here we did not specify any starting index. Remember, if you do not specify any start index, it will consider from the 0th index. Okay. So from the 0th index, we want to print until -5. So we know this is -5, right? So it will print from the starting to all the way till here, right? So now let's run this code. So now you can see from the starting index, that is 0th to all the way to the space, right? Now let's try to use the step value also. So starting index is, we did not specify anything, so it will consider from the 0th index, and end index is, we did not specify anything, so it will treat all the way to the end, and the step value is positive. So that means left to right, print all the values, right? So let's run this code. So now you can see it is printing all the way from the 0th index to the end of the string, right? Now, what if we give step value -1? So -1 means right to left. So this will print in the reverse order, okay? So let's run this code. So now you can see we are able to reverse the string by giving the negative step value, okay? Now let's try to join the string. If you want to join one string to another string, we can use the concatenation operator, that is plus. So this plus is considered as the concatenation operator, that is to join two strings. So the first string is this value. So we already calculated here. It is printing from here to here, and we are trying to concatenate row to this string, right? So let's run this code. So now you can see this is what we have till here, and then now we added row to this string by using this plus, which is nothing but the concatenation operator. By using that, we can join two different strings, right? Now let's see different string functions. Okay, now let's create a string as raw string, and this is the value we are assigning. So let's run this code. Now let's say if you want to capitalize the first letter of the string and all other characters in lowercase, then we have a function called capitalize. So by using this capitalize function, we can capitalize the first letter of the string and all other letters are in lowercase, right? So if your requirement is to capitalize the first letter of the string, then you can use this capitalize function. Okay, now let's say if you want to find the index of a string, for example, let's say if you want to calculate the index of this string raw from this entire string, then you can use a function called find and pass this string, right? So this will give you the index value of this string raw from this entire string, right? So now let's run this code. So now you can see it is at the index 45. So this R starts from index 45. Okay. Now let me add this comment here. To return the index of a string, you can use the find function from string, right? Now let's say if your requirement is to check whether the string is alphabet or not, right? So we have a function called isAlpha. So by using that, you can check if this string is alphabet or not. So if you run this, it is returning false. So that means we have the punctuation mark here, right? So that is why it is returning false. So by using isAlpha function, we can check if the string is alphabet or not, right? Now let's create another string ABC and BBC. Okay, now let's say if you want to swap the case, that is from uppercase to lowercase and lowercase to uppercase, then we have a function called swap case. So if you run this code, so now you can see we are able to convert from uppercase to lowercase and lowercase to uppercase, right? So to swap the case, we can use swap case function. Okay, now let's say if you want to check if the string starts with ABC, then we have a function called starts with, and we are passing ABC, and here we are giving the start and end index value. So here we are telling 0 to 3, is this string starting with ABC or not? So that is what we are trying to get. So it is returning true, right? So this starts with, the signature is, you have to provide the string value and what is the starting index and what is the ending index. Then it will check if the string starts with ABC at the index 0 to 3, right? Now let's say the string ABC starts at the index 5 to 8, right? Which is not correct. So this is returning false because it is starting from 0 to 3, right? Similarly, we have ends with function as well. So we are checking the string ends with BBC or not, which is correct, right? So now let's select this cell and run the code. So now you can see it is true, right? So the signature here is we have to provide the value and start and end index. These are optional, right? Now let's see if your requirement is to check if this string is alphanumeric or not, right? So let's take the same string again. So what do we have here? This is our string. Now, if your requirement is to check if this string is alphanumeric or not, then we have a function called isAlphanumeric, right? So now let's run this code. So now you can see it is returning false because we have the punctuation mark at the end of the string, right? So that is why it is returning false. So by using this isAlphanumeric function, we can check if the string is alphanumeric or not, right? Now let's say if your requirement is to check if the string is numeric, then we have a function called isDigit. So by using this, we can check if this string is numeric or not, right? So let's run this code. So now you know it is returning false because it is not numeric, right? Now let's say if your requirement is to find the length of the string, then we have a function called len and we have to pass the string. So now you can see it is returning 50 characters, right? So that is how you can find the length of the string. Okay. Now let's say if you want to replace this animal with some other string. Okay. We have a function called replace. So from this string, we are trying to replace animal with a lion by using this replace function. Okay. So let's run this code. So now you can see we are able to replace from animal with a lion by using this replace function. Now let's create the string by adding trailing spaces. So let's run this code and now let's see what we have inside this string. So now you can see we added trailing white space. Now let's see if you want to strip away all these trailing white spaces, then we have a function called strip. By using this, you can strip all the trailing white spaces. Okay. So this strip function is used to strip away all the trailing white spaces. Now let's say if you want to split this string, wherever you see comma, that is where we want to split the string, right? So we have comma here. So 1, 2, and 3, right? So it should split as 3 strings. So now let's run this code. So now you can see it is returning list of 3 strings. It is splitting by comma. Wherever it says comma, it is trying to split there, right? So let's create another string. Hello, this is great, right? So we are giving the space here. Okay. Now let's run this code. And now let's use the split function and let's try to split by space, right? So let's run this code. So now you can see it is returning list of these 4 strings. It is splitting by space. So if you do not specify anything inside this argument, then it will split by white spaces, right? Now let's say if your requirement is to join list of strings. For example, let's say you are trying to join this list of strings with this string, then you can use the function called join. So let's run this code. So now you can see we are able to join this list of strings with this string, right? So using join function, you can join the list of strings. Now let's say if your requirement is to pad the string with zeros from the left, then we have a function called zfill. So here we are specifying 5. So that means pad this A with 4 zeros, right? From the left because it is positive index, right? So if you run this code, so now you can see it is padding this element A with 4 zeros, right? So these are different string functions. And if you want to explore more, you can go to the official Python documentation, that is python.org, and then you can deep dive more. Okay. So what we learned in this lecture, we understood how to create a string and then how to retrieve the elements from a string either by positive index or negative index. And we also learned how to provide the step value, positive step and negative step. And then we saw how to join strings by using this plus, which is nothing but the concatenation operator. And then we saw different string functions. Capitalize is to capitalize the first letter of the string, And then find is used to find the index value of a string from this string. And then is alpha function is used to check if the string is alphabet or not. And then swap case is to swap from uppercase to lowercase and vice versa. And starts with function is used to check if the string starts with this value or not. Similarly, we have ends with. And if you want to know if the string is alphanumeric or not, we have a function called is alphanumeric. And isDigit is used to check if the string is numeric. And length function is used to check the length of the string. And replace function is used to replace the string with another string. And we also saw how to strip away this trailing white spaces, and we saw how to split a string, and then we saw how to join list of strings by using this join function. And we also saw how to pad a string with zeros by using this zfill function. And you can explore more depending on your requirement by going to the official documentation. That's all about strings. Thank you. So we started learning about different Python data structures. We have seen list, tuple, and string. Now let's see set data structure. So that is the next one. So let's learn about set data structure. So let's see what are the properties of set. Set is unordered collection of unique elements. Okay. So set will return only unique elements. So now let's see how to create a set. We have different ways of creating a set. For example, here we are specifying inside these curly braces. You have to specify the elements by comma separated. So let's run this code. And now let's see if this is set or not. By using the function type, we can get the data type of this variable set1, right? So now you can see it is returning set. So this is how you can create a set by specifying the elements comma separated inside this curly braces, right? Now here we directly assign all these elements to this set. So this is one way of creating a set. And we also have another way of creating the set. So first let's see what we have inside this set1. So now you can see here we specified 4 multiple times, but it only returned once. That means set will return unique element. Okay. So this is one way of creating set. Now let's see another way of creating set by using the set constructor. Okay. So now let's run this code. So now let's see the type of set2 variable. So now you can see it is returning set. And what we have inside this set2, it is an empty set, right? Because we did not add any values. Now let's say if you want to add elements to this set, we have a function called add. So set2 dot add of, we are adding the element 1. Okay. So now let's run this code. So now let's see what we have inside set2. Earlier it was empty set. Now we added 1 by using add function. So now let me run this code. So now you can see we are able to add element 1. And we also have another way of creating set. So here first we created the empty set and then we added the elements. Instead of that, we can directly add this element when we calling this constructor. So this is another way. So now let's see what we have inside this set3. So now you can see this is what we have inside this set3. Set will always return unique values, right? Also notice we added apple is good and it is returning A, D, E, G because we know set is unordered, right? So the set elements are unordered. And now let's say if you want to see the functions that are available inside a set, then we can use dir function and see all the attributes, right? So these are all the attributes and these are all the functions that are available inside the set. So you can get that by using this dir function, right? For example, let's say if you want to know this update method details, then you can use help function or you can also use this question mark, right? This will return the function details of update function, right? Now let's see different set operations. Let's create two sets. Set 1 is equal to set of apple. So this is first set, and the second set is banana. Now let's say if you want to know the unique elements that are not in set 2 but exist only in set 1, then we can use the minus operator, right? So that is set 1 minus set 2. So now we can say it is returning ELP. So that means, is A present here in the set 2? Yes. P present here? No. So that is why it is returning P. Is L present in set 2? No. So it is returning L. Is E present in set 2? No. So that is why it is returning E. So if you want to know the unique elements that are present in set 1 but not there in set 2, then you can use minus operator, right? Now let's do the reverse. Set 2 minus set 1. So that means unique elements that exist only in set 2 but not in set 1. So Bn, only Bn are the unique elements. A is already present inside set 1. Instead of minus operator, you can also use difference function as well. So that is set 1 dot difference of set 2 or set 1 minus set 2. Both are same, right? So you can see it is written in ELP, same as this one, right? Now let's say if you want to know all the unique elements from both these sets, then you can use OR operator. So this will give all the unique elements from both the sets. So instead of OR operator, we also have a function called union. So both will return the same, either or union, right? Now let's see if you want to know only the common elements from both these sets, then we can use AND operator. Okay, set 1 and set 2, that will give only the common elements between both the sets. Instead of AND operator, we can also use intersection function. Both will return the same, right? So AND operator or intersection function will return the common elements from both the sets. And let's say if you want to see only the unique elements that are not present in both the sets, okay, then we can use set 1 cap set 2, right? So this is used to see only the unique elements that are not present in both the sets, okay? Or instead of this, we also have symmetric difference update. So this will also return the same value as this operator, right? So either you can use the operator or the function, okay? And you can also convert this set to a different data structure. For example, let's say if you want to convert a set to a list. So let me create a set. Set 3 is equal to 4, 8, 9. And if you want to convert this set to list, then you can use the list constructor and pass this set. So let's see what we have inside list underscore new. So now you can see it is returning the list. So you can convert from one data structure to another data structure as well. Okay. And if you want to learn more, you can go to the official Python documentation. Go to docspython.org and go to the data structures and sets. So now you can see you can explore more depending on your requirement, right? So let's quickly review what we learned here. So set is unordered collection of unique elements, right? So set will always return unique elements, and this is how you can create a set by specifying the elements inside this curly braces, and these elements are comma separated, right? And you can also create an empty set and then add the elements by using add function, or you can directly pass the element. And next thing is we saw different operators on sets, right? So minus operator or difference function, this will give unique elements that are only in set 1 but not there in set 2, right? So similarly, set 2 minus set 1, this or union, this will return all the unique elements from both the sets, right? And next one is AND operator. So AND or intersection function, these are used to see the common elements from both the sets. And this operator or symmetric difference update function, these are used to see only the unique elements that are not present in both the sets. Okay, so here we saw how to convert from one data structure, that is set, to list, right? So that's all about set. All right, thank you. So far we learned about list, tuple, string, set, and now let's learn about dictionary. Okay, so that is our next data structure to learn. First thing is, let's see what are the properties of dictionary. So each element is key and value pair. Inside the dictionary, each element is key value pair, and the dictionary is unordered and keys are unique. Okay, all the key elements are unique inside the dictionary, and keys should be anything immutable. Right, now we will see all these properties. First thing is, let's see how to create a dictionary. For example, this is the dictionary, right? So if you run this, so now you will see each element is key value pair. So name is the key, and Bob comma John, these are the values. Age 30, that is key value. Height 5 comma 5.7, so key and value. Weight 150, that is, this is the key and this is the value, right? So this is how we will create a dictionary. Okay, so name, we are giving a list of elements, these are the values to the name key. And age 30, right? And height 5 comma 5.7, weight 150, right? So this is how you can create a dictionary. Now let's say if you want to see the data type of this dictionary variable, you can use the type function. So now you can see it is of type dict, right? Which is nothing but the dictionary. Now, instead of this way, you can also create another way. Let's create another dictionary. My dictionary 2 is equal to 123 colon high, right? So that means we are assigning set and string, right? So this is the key and this is the value. So let's run this code. So now you can see this is the key inside the dictionary and this is the value. One is the set, other is the string, right? Now let's create another dictionary by using dict constructor, right? So here we are passing list of sets, right? So name Sam, right? So key value, and age 25, key value, right? So either you can create this way or you can also use the dict constructor and pass the values, right? So this is another way of creating a dictionary. Okay. Now let's see how to do the selection or indexing, right? So that is our next topic. So let's say if you want to retrieve name values, then you can pass my dictionary one. So that is our dictionary, and we are passing the key value, which is nothing but name, and that should give us Bob comma John, right? So now let's select this cell and run this code. So now you can see it is returning values for the key name, right, from this dictionary. Okay, so this is how you can select the elements of a dictionary. Now let's see if you want to get all the keys of this dictionary, that is name, age, height, and weight, right? If you want to get all the key values from a dictionary, then you can use this keys function. Now you can see name, age, height, weight, right? So these are all the key names. And similarly, if you want to get all the values, right? That is Bob John 35, 5.7, 150, right? So we have a function called values, which will give all the values of that dictionary, right? And now let's say if you want to get all the items of the dictionary, then you can use this items function. So which is giving everything, right? Name and what are the values, age and what is the value, height and what is the value, weight and what is the value, right? So if you want to see all the attributes or functions available inside a dictionary, then we can use the dir function, and this will return all the attributes and functions that are available inside this dictionary. Now let's see what we have inside the dictionary, my dictionary 1. Now let's say if you want to read the value of this age, so you can pass this key and get the value by using get function. Okay, so you can pass the key to the get function, so you will get the value, right? And now let's say if you want to delete an element from a dictionary. So let's say if you want to delete this age, right? So you can use this del keyword, and this is the dictionary name, and we are passing the key, right? So we want to delete this. So let me run this code. So now let's see what we have inside this dictionary. So now you can see we are able to delete age, right? So here we have age, and in this dictionary we do not have age, right? So you can delete an element of a dictionary by using this del keyword, right? And now let's see if you want to sort these keys. We have a function called sorted and pass this dictionary dot keys, so that will sort the keys, right? And let's say if you want to see an element is present inside a dictionary, for example, let's say if name is present inside this dictionary, then we can use in keyword, right? So we are checking if this name is present inside this dictionary, right? So this is returning true, so that means this key is present inside this dictionary, right? And similarly, we have many other attributes or functions are available inside this dictionary, right? And if you want to deep dive more, you can go to this official documentation of this dictionaries from python.org, and you can explore more depending on your requirement. So let's quickly review what we learned here. So what are the dictionary properties? Each element is represented as key value pair inside this dictionary, and the elements are unordered, and all the key values are unique, right? And keys are immutable. And how do we create a dictionary? So this is how you can create a dictionary as name value pair, right? And you can also create a dictionary by using this dict constructor and pass the values. So that will give name value pair, right? So next thing is we saw how to select the elements of a dictionary. You can pass the key as the index, and that will give you the values. And the next thing is we saw how to get all the keys of a dictionary by using keys function, how to get all the values of a dictionary by using values function, and then how to get all the items of a dictionary by using items function, right? And then next we saw by using dir function we can understand all the attributes or functions of a dictionary. And next thing is we passed the key to the get function to get the value, right? And if you want to delete an element from a dictionary, you can use del keyword. And then if you want to sort the keys, we have a function called sorted, right? And let's say if you want to know if this key is present inside this dictionary, you can use in keyword, right? And you can explore more depending on your requirement by going to the official documentation, right? So that's all about dictionary. All right, thank you.